Greetings, everybody. I am Fire Lotus, and welcome back to another live Witches Chat. So today it's probably going to be just a Q&A day. I won't be on here that long because I have a lot of things to prep for tonight and or tomorrow. Um, but anyways, before I get to that, hi, hello, I am Fire Lotus. If you don't know who I am, I've been doing these for about 3 to 4 years now. I started out on my Facebook, and this year I converted it to here. I've been a practitioner for 18 years, and I am mostly an Appalachia folk practitioner slash Southern conjurer. A little bit of Death Witch in there as well. Um, but yeah, super excited. If y'all did not know, tonight, due to how the new moon is, it's actually considered a black moon, which is basically the exact opposite of a blue moon. Basically, there's new moon cycles in January, hourly wise. Hello, which is weird because it's a very, very new term for me. Good morning. Very new term for me. But the one thing I did want to talk about before we get into like questions was something that I kind of touched on last week, and now it's kind of like due to two messages that I recently received. And before I say this, I don't really use this term much. I actually hate this term, but it fits with this. I had recently somebody, a mutual, well, they were following me, now they're mutual, but they asked a simple question for witches that sell spells and stuff like that, which was, how do you go about, like, advertising that you're doing custom spells now? Like, what is the process of that? And before I had messaged her, nobody had responded, so I messaged her and just kind of broke down how I do it. And she was so relieved because she's like, nobody else is trying to like help out with this, and we've been talking since then, and it's something that the community and it needs to be addressed with the witchy community, which is there's a lot of gatekeeping with like how to do things. Like with me, I didn't have anybody to ask. When I started all of this, when I started my Facebook page, when I started offering spells and stuff like that, I learned as I went. And I do plan on in the next few days actually making a video on that. But we need to start actually helping people more, helping each other more, because it doesn't even really feel like a community anymore, depending on what side you're on. Because I know community, most people think online. It's not just online. It's not just on one platform. But yeah, we need to work better on trying to help people. Hello, I won't be able to stay long, but I'll definitely going to back and replay. Okay, I hope you have a great day. Now, the second question or the second response email that I got yesterday or message actually like floored me and blew me away, which was basically they just thanked me because they were in somebody else's live and the person who was doing the live basically ignored them. Answered everybody else, but ignored that. And they were like, thank you for actually like interacting with us. And I was like, of course. For one, that's how my brain works. But I've also been in those situations of where it's like you felt like you were being ignored. And with that being said, because I'm not going to go on the tangent that I was going to go on to, which is just basic research on how that stuff works. But I hate talking about TikTok. Very soon, I'm going to be taking a break from TikTok because it's just getting too consuming. Also, I want to share y'all a story with y'all. So, if you do follow me on TikTok, you know that I started a like mini series about how my partner's abilities are waking up, and there is a slight trigger warning for domestic violence in this. So the other day we went to a Dollar General that we normally don't go to. Like we only go every now and then to it. It's one of the I think it's called like Dollar General Market now, where they actually have like a gas station attached to it. It's very weird, but it's like the biggest one. And our Dollar General chains down here have just sucked recently with like not having things. Anyways, so we're in there and this couple, this man and this woman kept running into us. And I mean, at one point I physically almost like ran into her. And I didn't like the energy that her husband was giving off. He had that like very stern, like there's a lot of things that go on behind the closed doors, but I didn't say anything. So, I like apologized because I was in her way or she was in my way. And ironically, they got behind us or they were in front of us as well. But it wasn't until we got home that my partner, out of the left field, like out of completely nowhere, he goes, "So you remember that couple from Dollar General?" I'm like, "Yeah." I was like, I didn't really like their like weird energy with him, and he's like, "Yeah, no, it's domestic violence." And I'm like, I, I'm sorry, what? How did you get from weird energy to domestic violence? Like, what? Tell me, explain this to me. And he goes, "You didn't see what they got?" And I'm like, "No, I did know that they had a buggy with them." He goes, "A lamp and a light bulb." Okay, and the way that he said this, it actually made sense. He goes, for one, it was just the energy, but he's like, when I looked down and I saw it, all I saw in my head was like the commotions of screaming and yelling, and then a lamp basically being slung across the wall and like just shattering into pieces. And see, that's how his psychic abilities work. And it's so weird. It's so interesting to me because, like, with mine, I have claircognizance mostly, which is basically I just know things. Like, I can't explain how it happens. I'll just be talking, and then all of a sudden, it's just like word vomit. But, like, I think back and I'm like, wait, where the fuck did that knowledge come from? He, on the other hand, he gets flashes of images in his head. There was a moment where we were on Archer Road. I did not just say that road. Um, on the most haunted property. And fucking we were talking about something because what they don't talk about on like the paranormal shows and all this other shit is when you have some type of actual real negative energy, the one thing that does kind of, well, it's not just the Bible, but it's in the Bible heavily, which is infestations. You will get infestations if you have a very, very negative thing. Now, this can be with roaches, this can be with rats, mice, depending on. And the reason we're saying this is because that property had a very big problem with it. But there was one picture that I used to have on my wall that I think actually somebody bought now because I put it up in it's one of my paintings, and it was just the goddess format, and it was like rainbow swirls behind it. But the roaches would never go anywhere near that. And we're talking, and all of a sudden I felt like a feminine energy. Take in mind, I've only seen 2 pictures of his mother. And this is before I got into working with my ancestors. And I looked at him and I was like, "Your mom's here." And right at that moment, he was talking about something else and it clicked. Like he had this light bulb effect. And he said in his head, he heard and saw like hands clapping saying, "Yes, you got it," which is something that his mom used to do. And to like kind of see both of those points to see how far he's come with it, because he doesn't really like talking about it that much because he doesn't necessarily understand it and or control it, and it's causing him anxiety with it, which he's not used to. And he randomly brought it up to me like 2-3 weeks ago that like, what are signs, are these weird things are happening. And I was like, I honestly think you're a medium. um and it's just because there's just, like I've said with his story before, if y'all don't know, his entire family is gifted. I'm confirming it without confirming it that his mother was a practicing witch. And then his father, he sees spooks all the time. um but it's weird though, because it's very rare that I've actually met a psychic family, because with all the psychics I have met, normally it like jumps a generation or like 2 generations. Like with mine, I'm pretty sure it jumped multiple generations, because as far as I know, I'm the only one with abilities in my family, and or the only one that actually recognized it. um but it was very interesting because I was like, how did you get that and that from this? Very interesting though. Luckily though, we haven't had any negative spirits here. The only thing that we've been having is knocking. And I am a firm believer in like mundane before magical. I cannot for the life of me figure out this knocking, because it's not at the same time, and no, it's not at like 3 a.m. It's random points and times either through the day or through the night, and it is always 3 knocks, 3 to 4 knocks, and that's it. And I'm kind of one of those weird people where, like, if I hear a knock and I do not see anybody, I'm not going to open my door, my front or back door, because to me, that's literally inviting them in. But it's weird because if y'all seen other videos that I make, I have my house set up almost like in Spirited Away, a bathhouse, a spiritual bathhouse. As in, any land spirits or wandering spirits can come and just kind of chill out here as long as they don't have any evil intent. And that just goes into how you set up your wards, and as much as I hate to use this term, it also kind of goes into setting your intention. Um, but normally Bubbers will notify me when he's not sleeping when a spirit has arrived, because since the shamanic meditation that I did to see my shadow side, I've kind of fucked up my sight with seeing spirits, but I can sense them. And when I do see them, it's not like I used to. Before, I could see full body apparitions. It was just they were kind of see-through. Or like misty almost, I want to say, or transparent almost. Now it's weird because it's like with my physical eyes, it's like I can see the outline of them without any details. It's just like, and that also is where the claircognizance comes from, or me just picking up on the spirit, because there have been multiple times where I've channeled his ancestors, which is very weird because, like, channeling my ancestors, that's one thing because most of them I have met, or some of them I've met or heard stories of. But to start channeling other people's ancestors and what you're saying, there's no way that I would be able to know it. It's very weird. And it's also, I have not actually found the book, and this, a lot of people may not like this. The Psychic Witch book, I personally did not like. I don't actually have a physical copy of it, but I did I bought the audiobook of it. And for a beginner, it's a really, really great book. But for somebody who's already advanced, I don't know, it may be that I just need to actually try the techniques. But, like, that's one book that I'm trying to find, is an actual legit book that will teach you different ways to hone into your psychic abilities without meditating. Because I'm neurodivergent. I have severe ADHD. It is extremely hard for me to do, like, the mindful meditation where you just sit and you're kind of in the moment. I can do it, but I have to have music or something like that that my brain will kind of latch on to. And I mean, I do my twilight dreaming or twilight meditation, but I want to advance it. And I know right now my biggest issue that I have, and this sucks, and if you ever have a blockage and it's a personal blockage, those are so much harder to deal with than like an actual physical blockage. Because when it comes to a mental blockage, for one, you have to figure out what it is. And then for two, you have to figure out a way to actually stop it. Mine, due to my ADHD and my anxiety kind of being intertwined, a lot of the times I come up with great ideas, but I will completely, like, outthink it. Basically, I will think on it so much that I won't even do it. Like, it's like I talk myself out of doing it. So I myself am my biggest blockage right now because I'm having this struggle with my online content and my home life. And what I mean by that is I'm very, very family oriented. I always have been, especially due to the fact that I want a better life than I had when I was a kid. And due to my scheduling or my partner's scheduling, depending on the season and depending on the days, like here very soon in the spring and summertime, I will be online more just because he will be working way later hours than he is now. And I'm I realized it the other day, and it's so weird because Spirit has been using my partner as another way of telling me things that I already know. Like, I can do an oracle or tarot reading, and it basically calls my ass out, and then I'm like, okay, I got it loud and clear, I see it, and then me and my partner would be talking, and out of the left field, he'll randomly pop something in there, and I looked at him yesterday, and I'm like, all right, Mr. Shadow Work, I understand this. Like, I understand what the problem is, but like going live on TikTok, I totally should. I totally need to. That way I can open up more to the people. But for some reason, there's just a wall there. And it's driving me insane. And like a lot of people is like, well, just do a spell. again, when it comes to magic, yes, I can do as many spells as I want, but if I don't do the physical work on the other end, it's not going to work. And when it comes to mental health, yes, spells can help if you format it in just like taking your daily medication. If you do a daily ritual with it, it can help, but it's not going to cure it. I can write as much things down and then burn it as I want. It's not physically going to take that away. And that's another misconception thanks to online preferences is you just throw herbs and oils together and then you light a candle and then you're done. You walk away. No, you have to do the physical work, whether that's journaling, whether that's shadow work, whether that's doing oracle readings, whether that is physically going outside and doing something. That's how magic works. Now, again, there are things of instant magic, but it depends on what you're trying to manifest into. And even with that, you'll come to a point to where you can do things just by thinking on it. Interesting fact, if you have depression and you've been diagnosed with like clinical depression or depression, you can manifest things. You're slightly advanced at manifesting versus a person who has never experienced depression. And the reason that is because with the person when we have a depressive episode and we need something or we want something, we will take all the energy that we can round up and throw it out there, but we're also giving it our literal all. So it winds up manifesting slightly faster. With that being stated, also watch out wearing moldavite, because lavenderite is a manifestation stone. So if you can already manifest things and you're wearing something that also helps manifesting, that can cause issues. That's why I suggest if you have depression or anxiety, invest in smoky quartz. It's not that expensive. It can be found almost anywhere, but it is really, really good for programming it to where your anxiety, your anxious thoughts will not manifest. And at first, when I first heard that, I was like, yeah, okay, whatever. And then I actually started wearing a piece because a lot of with my jewelry, besides like pieces like this, I've made. As in, this was just a quartz crystal that I found wire and just wrapped it together. Are they pretty? No. Are they aesthetic? Yes. To me, they are because it fits my style. And as I'm doing that, though, or as you're working with it, always remember that depending on how you believe, crystals also need to be assigned a job. That's one of the reasons I believe when a lot of people got moldavite, besides hyping it up, I believe that's the reason their life just went radically out of control, was because you're bringing in a crystal that basically it's like a blockbuster of change. It's a catalyst of change, but you're not assigning it on what aspects of your life you want it to help versus just it's like bringing pure chaos in. I have a piece of moldavite that I got a year and a half before it blew up online when I was doing my Facebook lives. And every now and then I'm going to switch back over to that because I'm not getting a lot of traction over here. Exciting news though, hopefully by the end of the day, I will actually reach my goal of breaking 400 on my YouTube page, on this page. I am at 399. I am so happy about this. But, a lot of things did happen when I first got the moldavite, but it wasn't until I learned to work with it and to actually connect with that moldavite. And then I also encourage you, if you have moldavite, wear it with clear quartz and or smoky quartz, because smoky quartz is not only a grounding stone, it can work like the aspect of a dream catcher. The aspect of a dream catcher. Hello. The aspect of a dream catcher is basically the knots, the little string, right? Dreams, bad or good, will go through it. The bad dreams get caught in the little knots in the little web, while the good dreams sprinkle down or move down through the feathers and onto you. Well, that's at least my understanding of that's how a dream catcher works. You can do the same thing with smoky quartz. So what you do is you'll hold it in your hand and literally just talk to it of saying, look, I have anxiety. So, any of my anxious thoughts, I do not want to manifest, and I want to stay grounded and centered. And it will work. Trust me. It works for me. And if you ever want to test or show somebody, like, the actual power of crystals, get a black kyanite. Get a piece of black kyanite and put it between their legs, between their feet, and get them just to stand up and ask them how do they feel. Because I did it to my partner, and you can literally feel, because it's such a grounding stone, it will literally, it's almost like a jolt of just going, Also, do not wear that while you are drinking, because it will also have those effects. And anybody who is trying to get over drinking, amethyst. Amethyst is known as the, basically the, absence. There we go. Absence thing. Now, what do the comments say? Hope everybody is having a wonderful afternoon, and stay warm and or stay cooled off. Yes, please, because luckily the freezing temperatures that we had here in Florida are slowly moving out, but this weekend was pure hell. And yes, I know, to everybody else who lives outside of Florida, I understand y'all also went through it. I mean, Massachusetts is basically frozen under ice, or snow. But, yes, quartz and crystals can be very, very handy, but again, you have to assign their task. But it also how you believe. I understand not everybody is an atheist. I am. I do believe that crystals, this cup, has some type of spiritual energy. Does that mean that I believe that everything is aware of it? No. Crystals, on the other hand, yes. I do fully believe that, because I've had crazy stories with crystals. My very first true pendulum, I used to work at a, technically it was a herbal tea store. Good afternoon. And good morning. But, it was technically an herbal tea slash, it was a fucking metaphysical store. It was. It is no longer a metaphysical store because they just lost their idea for that. Anyways, back to what I was saying. I worked in the back, so I only, up until the last 2 years, was working actually in the front. Interesting fact, though, even though I worked in the back of the store, and you're probably asking, well, what did you do? And this is YouTube and not TikTok. I capped these, as in I literally put what is in this in this. And by the way, this is Kratom. So that was my job, literally standing there working with the machine, capping. And on my breaks, or before I came in, I was that employee who would literally show up 2.5 hours before I even had to clock in just to be able to read the books and stuff. So in the process, I gained a lot of theoretically followers. Because they would come in and like straight up ask, yo, is Corey here? Or is Fire Lotus here? There we go. And if you heard what I just said, no, you did not. Like, is he here? So I would come up there, suggest a book, stuff like that. But there was this pendulum collection that we had, and there was one lavenderite pendulum, and I would ask it, like, are you ready for me? Are you ready for me? And since I worked there, I knew that, like, we didn't replace it. So after a year of doing this, I finally go up to it and I'm like, are you ready for me? This bitch almost completely broke the chain that it was on because it was spinning so fast. Fast forward, actually a few months later, I moved down here to Florida, and literally I was working a spell with it, and then I put it back in its place that I always do, and it was just poof, gone. I searched 3.5 days outside, everywhere in between, could not find it, still have not been able to find it. Oh, okay. And then the same thing happened with my Oracle deck. My Halloween, do I have it here? Possibly. Yes, I do. Okay. This is no, I do not. Those are my tarot cards. I have the Halloween Oracle deck. Amazing deck. Also, interesting fact. They have an app. It's like $1. It was $1.29. Where you can actually download the entire, well, basically the deck. It comes with the deck and the cards. But what's interesting was when I started working with those, I would always use the book. And this is actually how I got to the point where I am now with oracles, was because I literally read for my partner. I set the book down. The box was on top of the actual book that it came with because it wouldn't fit in the box with the Oracle deck. We left and we came back. Take in mind, me and him were the only two that actually lived on the property at this point. It was gone. Completely gone. And we moved off this property, which means I got to see everywhere. Till this day, I have no idea what happened to that fucking book. And we were hanging out at another metaphysical shop. Shout out to Blue Crystal. That is BLU, minus the E, Crystal. It is in Gainesville, Florida, right across the street from Satchel's. Amazing place. Amazing place. And the owner, my adopted grandmother, told me, she's like, well, you know, maybe that was spirit telling you, and my partner said the same thing, that you don't need the book anymore. And I was like, well, how the fuck am I supposed to read these cards if I don't have the book? I learned very quickly. Very, very quickly, I learned how to read them. And then, I had a follower send me the Flowers from the Dead Oracle. And the reason that I love those so much, and for anybody who is trying to read Oracle or Tarot, if you can get your hands on this deck, or a deck like it, I highly, highly suggest it, because it does something that I've not seen another fucking deck try to do. So, the creator of it, also, if you scroll through my podcast, I think one of the very ones down below, it actually has it stated. I interviewed her, so I actually found out the reason she made this deck. She actually created her own tarot deck. It's no longer in publication. I'm hopefully going to talk to her about trying to get it back in publication, because the artwork on that deck is amazing. But she learned that in the process of this, I'm going to start saying they, because I don't want to misidentify. They started learning that a lot of people hyper-focus on so much detailing when it comes to the tarot cards. They're trying to remember it. Therefore, it's taking away from the actual intuitive read. There we go. Because I understand when it comes to tarot readers, there are multiple different types. There's the intuitive reader. There's the actual tarot reader who has studied it, who knows the cards left and right. And then there's like more of the psychic reading. And she's like, so I decided, well, why not create a deck of cards that barely has anything to go on? What I mean by that is all of the Flowers from the Dead cards, they have an image, mostly of like skeletons or basically skeletal or bones of animals and or insects. And then it's got a couple other pictures of like other cultures. That's basically what the card is. The card kind of touches on everything. But besides the one image, you only get 1 to 2 words on each card. That's it. There's no book that comes with it. It's just a deck. And when I tell you how fast I picked it up, as in I understood, like, this is how it goes, I can read it like that. And the reason that was because they created a deck that would build on the intuitiveness of the person who's reading it. So it's giving you confidence every time you use it. And the deck that I have now, I very, very, very soon will have to get me another deck, because I'm this close from doing one more reading where those cards just snap in half because I used them so much. I feel different when it gets to night, like a switch being flipped. Like I get some kind of burst of energy because I always feel different at night. What does that mean? Metaphysically, I'm not for sure, but there are personality types, because I used to be like that when I was slightly younger, where like in the daytime I was just groggy, wasn't really here, and then at a certain time after 6 or 7 o'clock I was just alive, more energetic. Now that also could be depending on what path you follow. It could be something trying to communicate with you, and sometimes it's only at night. For artistic people, the people that like paint and do all types of things like that, or creative people in general, we're actually more creative at night versus in the daytime. I also kind of personally view that as, well, if you're like me, I prefer night over day, just because, especially if I like live in the city or something like that, it's more quiet. And to me, it's more comforting. Plus, I'm a bit of a night owl, as my birthday is. And I was born at night. That very well could be that. When you can check out your birth chart, there may be some information into that because of that. Or a lot of people don't really talk about this. When it comes to witchcraft, and obviously social media completely threw that shit out the window. When it came to witchcraft, a lot of the reasons that you hear, like, in the dark of night or things like that, was because, obviously, back then, you couldn't openly practice, but it was also there's an actual saying that goes to it, but basically, you're supposed to be here, but at the same time, you're not supposed to do everything and show everybody what you're doing. Now, with that, multiple different types of conversations have been started. There are some practitioners that will not show any of their practice and or their altars online due to a fear of energetic people, you know, affecting it. I've never really had a problem like that. Not to mention, when it comes to my altars, I'm also bipolar, as in I'm never happy, which means I'm always constantly changing things. Um, but you're kind of supposed to keep it hidden. Um, and with that, something very interesting, and I love these conversations as well. I forgot the creator's name, and I'm not gonna like miss. But there is a creator that's a mutual of mine and a really, really good creator on TikTok, and they tagged me in a video asking, when it comes to the cord cuttings, and I've never thought about this. When it comes to the cord cuttings, that is the cutting of an energetic connection, right? Well, what happens, because I'd made a video and I was like, if you do a cord cutting and or if you get a cord cutting, your footwork is to make sure physically you cut that line of communication, which means like a breakup. You block the numbers, you block the accounts, you make sure that person and you cannot have contact with each other. And he's like, what happens if that person gave you a physical item? And it was the first video I saw this morning as I was sipping on my coffee, and I stopped and I'm like, wait, oh my God, that's because that physical object still may have a connection. So he was like, what do we do? Do we get rid of it? I originally said yes, get rid of it. You could possibly try to cleanse it and almost do a cord cutting on the physical item. But yeah, I would definitely get rid of that. Story time with that. If you've been following me for a while, you know at one point in time, and if you do know what I'm talking about, please do not actually name the business that I'm about to mention and or the person that we're talking about. So I used to have what I thought was a friend, and they had sent me a box, and I started advertising about it heavily. Their sales were also going through the roof. And they told me this. They're like, you don't understand how much footing you're bringing me because, you know, when you talk about my stuff, and I used to, when I started my lives in the morning time, I would use some of their products to advertise for them. For one, I loved their products, generally loved them. Fast forward, this is about off and on for a year, I learned, and due to other things that had also happened, that every single time I received a package, or multiple other people that I'm very close to and friends with received a package, weird shit would start happening. And it wasn't until one of my friends sent me a picture of a sigil that was carved on top of one of the bottles, which had never happened before. And once the connection was made in my head, I was like, okay, I have to go through my house and I have to get every single fucking item that this person has ever sent me, and I've got to get rid of it. Which is what I did. I set the bitch on fire. Straight up set the bitch on fire. And then every now and then I'm still randomly finding tidbits. But there's more to that story that I'm not really going to go into. Basically, I did find out that they were a snake. Through multiple ways, and then them turning around and verifying it through that. An interesting witchy fact as well, or a witchy tip. If you think somebody is actually physically messing with you, do a dream spell. What I mean by this, and multiple different people have it different ways, work this spell to where if that person is actually messing with you, they will have either a certain type of dream or horrifying nightmares, and then they will contact you. Which means, after that, if that person comes to you and says, oh my God, I've had a horrible nightmare, they're literally the person. Because I did it with the person I'm talking about now. Literally, and my partner was here because I stopped and froze and showed him. First thing that morning when I woke up, they contacted me and started that conversation off with, I don't know what's happening, but I had some horrifying nightmares last night. And then this person also got a reading from me only to learn how I read. And then them turning around not even 24 hours later advertising for readings, and I knew for a fact they did not know how to properly read cards. So yeah, there's the lesson. But a lot of people automatically go to hexing and cursing. It's a waste of time. It's a waste of energy, depending on what they did. Do a retribution spell. They're going to be called different things. Some people know them as karma spells, but basically it is a spell. Love your necklace, Shell. Where did you get it? I had a good follower, Kat, send it to me in one of the last boxes that she sent me. It is the, I think it's for the chakras. chakras. I think I said that right. But yeah, that she sent me. I will ask her though where she got it from and let you know. But do a retribution spell. Do spells that make them learn a lesson. Like I saw a video and it's so true. If I really wanted to hex somebody, depending on their personality, I may bless them with blessings. It's like a bully. We have to look at some of these people like bullies. I'm not going to say narcissists, but bullies, which is bullies are looking for a reaction. If you don't give them a reaction, it's going to piss them off more. And I am of the subtle belief that if you ever hear me say, you know that saying that's going around on all platforms, it's like, take back your power, take back your power. We also have to realize our words have power. What I mean by that also, too, is if somebody pisses you off and upsets you by one action, and you let that one action ruin your entire day, you are allowing one person to completely ruin your entire day. You're allowing their energy to ruin yours. Also, do you know any that I could use? I will email you, or I will message you one. With me, see, that's complicated because I don't want to come off as like I'm gatekeeping. I don't normally write my spells down. And how I did this particular dream spell was I created a list, because I actually did have a list of people that I were suspecting were fucking with me. So I created this list, looked up some runes to send messages, and did a couple of custom sigils, and then I like to target things around them, not specifically them. Oh, I like that idea. Oh, I like that idea. I've never thought about that. Thank you for that. And then I will literally, my go-to, and this is Budget Witchcraft 101, my go-to, because they are only $1.35 where I live, I believe, or no, they're $1.89 for like over 100 coffee filters. I could send you my email. I think I also have you on Facebook, my Facebook page. I can message you through there too. Coffee filters. They're cheap, inexpensive, and very, very easy to burn. So what I did was I made the list, and then I basically just wrote out, because a thing that I do in my practice that I've always done, that I've also found out that it is actually a way to sign petitions, is I will write the outcome of, like, give whoever on this list nightmares so I can figure out who it is. And I'll write them over and over again. So, like, with the coffee filter, I'll write, say I'm doing a customer spell, as in I need more customers. So I would write the amount that I'm needing. I would write that over and over again. I would cross it, like, basically make it to where it looks almost unreadable, and then burn it. That's all I did with that spell. A lot of my spells, they sound very simple. Now, when it comes to customer spells, I don't do that. But my own personal spell work, it takes a lot for me to, like, set up a full-on circle and all of that. I've done it before. And then also with sending people messages and or dreams, feathers. Any type of feather. Feathers will work, because birds of a feather, the messenger, all the history behind that. But feathers. Use feathers to send them, and then use a couple of runes that are also for sending out energy, and then boom. Right then and there. And then not to mention, I also knew this person, so I already knew their name and their birthday, and that's how I personally do in my practice. And I've also been reassuring people that as well, because I've gotten a couple of, like, why do you need my full name and birthday? That's only because I need something that I can tie you to the candle, so I can direct this energy to make sure it fully goes to you. But there are sometimes I don't. Like, a few days ago, my partner had called me and asked if I could light some candles for him and 2 other people he works for. Due to the fact, I got it, thank you. Due to the fact that I've already met the 2 people he's talking about, and I know their energy very well, I didn't need their, like, information, versus me meeting somebody or talking to somebody online. I don't like using, and this is just a personal thing with me, I've done a couple of spells before where I would actually use my phone to hold up the image, and I don't know, I don't like really having, besides filming or taking pictures of my spell work when I'm actually doing it, I don't like technology to be around it. That's just a personal preference with me. It drives me crazy though. And I don't know if that's like the physical like weirdness behind it or what it is, but it drives me crazy. But yeah, simple things like that can be extremely, extremely effective. Um, and not to mention, I've done things to other people before, not even actually doing something. Like I've had people talking shit behind my back, and instead of actually using my own energy, I literally just wrote their name on a piece of paper and threw random shit around it and took a picture. And I was like, "You want to keep talking?" And for a person who doesn't practice magic, they're not going to know if you actually did something or not, but it'll work. So there's also another tip. Like if somebody's actually fucking with you, throw something together, not magically, just physical items to where it looks creepy or weird, and then send somebody a picture and be like, yo, keep it up, and this is what's going to go down. 9 times out of 10, they'll leave you alone. Um, that's why I kept talking, or I started talking about on TikTok self-hexing, because all these people going around saying, oh my god, I've been hexed. There are not enough people on that app to understand how to fully hex you. And the people that do fully understand how to hex you, you're not worth their time or energy. And I'm not being mean, it's just truthful. And that was when I was like, are you self-hexing yourself? Because I do it all the time. I've been self-hexed by myself versus actually being hexed by somebody else. Not saying I'm like God mode. I just try not to piss people off. Um, and that's an issue with making friends in the witchy community, because you never know if you piss them off, if they're gonna try to do something or not. Um, but a lot of the times it's self-hexing. And it's the same idea as if I went up to somebody who did not practice magic at all and handed them a rock and whispered some weird, I don't know, nonsense, non-existing words over it, handed it to them and said, by the way, you're hexed. What's going to happen, depending on how their brains work, is there's a seed, tiny, tiny little seed that just got planted. So after that, they drop their keys, they split their pants, they accidentally spill their coffee. All this stupid, stupid, mundane things that happen to all of us all the time, it's going to build up. And their brain's going to connect it with that curse. So the more things that you connect with that, the bigger and bigger it grows. But in reality, I didn't exchange any energy, so therefore they self-hexed their self. And the more that you feed into it, the bigger and madder it's going to grow. Self-hexing. And especially if you're like me that has ADHD mixed with extreme anxiety disorders, that happens a lot. My partner has to come to me and sometimes not literally slap me, but physically or non-physically, like slap me in the face and be like, look, stop. You're spiraling. Bring it back and stop. Recently I got called out by my ancestors because I got 2 readings from different people, and they called me out so much. They're like, you need to stop hating on yourself so much. Like, you haven't done anything wrong. You haven't pissed them off. It's all in your head, and you need to get out of that. Which is true. I do. And that's something that a lot of people don't talk about. Mental health and witchcraft, and how mental health issues can affect your own witchcraft. It's just like when people talk about, I was originally taught that when you're doing magic, you need to be in a balanced state. What do they mean by that? Because at the end of the day, raw emotions can be extremely fucking powerful. But I'm an Aries, and I'm a fire sign, and I'm also a pyro. So if I let my anger just free roam as I'm doing a spell, it could potentially burn my entire house down. Not to mention, I have this side of me that hopefully none of y'all will ever see. Especially online. I hope online never sees that of me. I have this unique ability to where once I get pushed to that limit, that full limit, when I snap, I won't sit there and cuss somebody out. I won't sit there and like, push them down. No, 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 no. I'm going to sit there and I will tell them and call them out on all of their flaws and everything that they're doing wrong, just as in a person or like ethically. So like, I'm not going to sit there and insult them. I'm going to sit there and be like, so you're this, and this. No, you're doing that wrong. One day I'll go into more detailing about that so it actually fully makes sense. But that's not something I'll be doing on this profile. I may do that on the Blaze Lotus one. No. Blaze Lotus one is for Miss V. I gotta start making videos of that too. If y'all did not know, I have technically I have a secret TikTok, and then I also have a YouTube page, which is Blazed. There's 2 Z's in it though. 2 Z's and then ED and then Lotus. I'm doing good. Doing good. Just trying to, you know, go through life. And then after this, I'm gonna be busy. My piles of books are trying to fall over. I'll be busy filling out petitions and making sigils, and then setting up for everything to be charged. And then actually making the jar tomorrow. And then I have a very, very busy week ahead of me, which is good. Oh, sorry, I'm 28. I'm 28 and be 29 this year. And I've been practicing since I was 13. Not the same thing, obviously. Thank you. And I try to be. I love sucking up knowledge. But yeah, things like that a lot of people don't talk about, and it needs to be talked about more. But I wanted to know if you have ever done glamour magic before for sexual attraction. Yes, I have. I've done it a lot, actually. I mean, I don't do it that much anymore due to the fact that I'm in a relationship. But yes, I've done glamours, all different types of things before, depending on the situation. Especially when I was like going into like my 17, 18 and I had acne, I did it all the time. So, from my understanding with glamours or glamour magic, depending on what you want, whether that's to heighten something or whether that's to hide something, basically what it does is it makes everybody around them. Okay, so example right now, I have that like that little acne spot right there, right? So if I were to do a glamour on myself, how the world will perceive that as, instead of focusing on this, everything else will be highlighted, so this right here just kind of fades into the background. It's the same thing as like this cup. Say I did a glamour on this cup to where anybody who was in my house could not see it. So what would happen is when you walk in, I've been telling folks about your channel. I really do. Oh, thank you so much. But when a person were to walk in, they would be able to see everything in that room except for the candle. The candle would basically just kind of be non-observant. So it doesn't actually physically mask it. It just makes it to where the human brain or eyes either focuses on it or don't focus on it. But there are also all different types of glamour magic. Also, a lot of the spells, the invisibility spells, that's basically what they're meaning. It's basically just to distract the eye from the item that's supposed to be hidden, and or attract the person by making all your things look better. It's also Mercury retrograde, for example. During Mercury retrograde, the reason, which nowadays that doesn't really, like, if you get a job opportunity, I don't give a shit if Mercury retrograde's in it, you need to take it. But what winds up happening in Mercury retrograde is some of the situations with like the contracts and stuff that you're not supposed to do. It's because during the retrograde, it will look like the perfect job. Like everything will be heightened and it'll just look perfect. And then when Mercury goes direct and that energy is slingshotted around, what winds up happening is that filter's ripped off. And you actually see how much of a shithole the place is. That's the same thing as glamour. It can make things look 10 times better than they are, and or completely hide something. And glamour magic can be extremely easy. There are spells online where supposedly you can change your eye color and stuff like that. I don't really know if those work. I can change my eye color depending on what I'm wearing and depending on what type of eyeliner I have on. But makeup is a very, very cool thing, because if you wear makeup, basically everybody who wears makeup, they're using glamour. Because what is makeup doing? It's either highlighting or hiding or changing certain aspects about yourself. So it is a physical actual glamour. Now the one cool, I will say I've had one cool incident with glamour, and my, we're not good friend, but we're still friends, one of my exes, um, where he lived at, or where we lived at, there was a graveyard, the city graveyard, directly behind the apartments that we lived in. So, as in, there was no fence or anything like that blocking our backyard from the graveyard. And you were not supposed to be in it after dark. So, me and him both being practitioners, we said, fuck this. This is the perfect place to practice at. And it was kind of uphill and then downhill. It had like very high moments, very low moments, landscape wise. And we're in the middle, dead center in the middle on one of the main stretches that goes through, that's like asphalted over. And we have a circle of little tea light candles around us. So obviously, in pitch black in the city, pitch black, like that should have been a red flag for anybody. 2 cop cars drove all the way around the cemetery. And when we first saw it, we're like, oh shit, because they were assholes there. So he looked at me and he goes, don't freak out. He goes, just think, you cannot see us, you cannot see us, you cannot see us. We were able to perform and finish the spell that we were doing without anybody seeing us whatsoever. Now, on the way back from that, we got stopped by one of the cops who asked us why the fuck we were walking in the middle of a graveyard. So it worked, though. It fully worked, and that's how glamours work. It basically just makes it as you're not even there, but it doesn't actually make you invisible. It makes it as the other person's brain is going to focus on everything else but you. And I wish people would talk about it more. Like, we've all seen The Craft. I was also like that, where I was like, yeah, I want to change my hair. No. Of course, of course. But yeah, that's glamour magic in a nutshell. Now again, with every type of spell work, you're gonna get like the basic and then advanced. But dyeing your hair, that can be a type of glamour. Um, Fingernail polish, type of glamour. A cool thing, if you're in the closet, if you wear fingernail polish, get a Sharpie or some other type of nail pen, write runes or sigils on your nails, and then cover it up with paint. You're still magical as fuck. Necklaces can be glamored, as in to kind of glamorify and or heighten your confidence. I use that a lot because I do have self-esteem issues, which is actually one of the reasons you see this weird streak of hair right here. I needed to change. Okay, now that's slightly more advanced. To that, let me reread that again to make sure. Your energetic field to a sexual one. I don't. I either A, I'm rereading that and not still understanding it. Um, Now, as long as you know energetic work, that should be very, very easy, because when it comes to sexual energy and your energy, they're kind of combined. You just have to push that out and or pull that back in. But essentially what you were talking about, I believe, is also called tantra, and or inner sex magic, basically. Um, and I know a little bit about that. Not that I've never met anybody. I mean, I've done sex magic before with my partners, but and by myself, but no, I've never met anybody that can. Now in my Discord, we do have an 18 plus that there are multiple different types of practitioners that do perform sex magic. And I mean, do not get me wrong. I also hope and pray anybody who is viewing this, which you should already be, is 18 or older. The last thing I need is parents coming at me. But sex magic can be very, very powerful. And I know that's something I have not talked about. I can touch on that a little bit. You can use sex magic to manifest spells. You can use sex magic to intensify those spells. And it does not matter if you are single and or you have a partner. Always consent. Consent is 100%. Now, what I mean by that is they don't necessarily have to No, technically they are partaking. What I mean by that is if you are a couple and or doing it solo, you're going to think about what you're trying to manifest up until climax. The climax, literally climax, is that being manifested into the world. And then with the bodily fluids, you can bless your tools. That is the strongest way besides using blood to bless your tools, because that is a direct connection. Also with that, I would not let anybody get their hands on those tools. There are so many things you can do with sex magic. Again, consensual wise. And then if you mix Tantra into the sex magic, then you're just going to have a wild ass night, because Tantra is the practice of being in the moment and, well, to be blunt, edging. It's kind of holding it off until boom. How often do you astral travel? I actually don't. I can, but I don't astral travel that much because it's not really a personal thing that I do. I've jumped the hedge before, which is kind of also like a type of astral travel. But one of the reasons I don't astral travel that much is, for one, I really don't have a reason to. For two, you can get parasites if you do not have the certain types of protection on you. And getting a psychic parasite is really, really bad. Can you tell me about the gods being that you met in astral travel? I've never actually met a god in astral travel. I have met two gods. None of that was in astral travel, though. And this story, a lot of people believe, some people don't. I don't really care. I got lost in the woods one time, and still to this day, I do not know if I saw something physical or if it was I just seeing it in my mind's eye. But a not really a guy, like a young adult showed up, and they had really, really piercing blue eyes. And they helped me out, like basically helped me find my direction out of the woods. And the only name that I got was Artemis. Do I know if that was the real Artemis? I do not know. I believe it was. And then I have not really met when I was younger. I was about 15 actually. My first circle, and I've told this story before, so if you've already heard it, so sorry. I was doing this ritual in this circle, and I went to release the last bit of herbs, which was basically the initial like offering to the universe. And back then I was Wicca. In Wicca practices and some other pagan practices, when you're doing a ritual, they teach you grounding and centering, but two specific ways. The god format, which is this right here, and then the goddess format, which is basically just holding your hands up like this. And what that point of that is after you have raised all that energy and you've set your spell out, some practitioners do not like to hold in that excess energy, so they'll release it back into the universe. I did the same thing, but without knowing what I was doing, I was also drawing down the goddess. Now, in Wicca, it is called drawing down the moon, and there are two versions of it, technically three now, where it was basically sex, as in male and female drawing down the moon. But in the ritual, non-sexual, it's basically a chalice and an athame. And what you're doing is you're drawing in the goddess. You are basically taking her all in. Well, at 15 years old, I didn't even know this was possible, and I did like this. I released it. I released the energy, and in the corner of my eyes, I started seeing these little black dots appear. And it just circled and circled, and I saw blackness. When I saw that blackness, when it fully covered, it was like I was being shot through the stars, and literally it was like I was flying through galaxies, and at the same time, I felt connected to everything, like everything. I could feel everything. And now, take in mind, to me, this felt like fucking eternity, but in reality, it was only like 5 minutes, if that, not even that, because at that point where I had blacked out, I had also collapsed and fell. It wasn't until 10 years later when I was talking to someone more experienced than I was, they're like, you tried drawing in the goddess. You basically tried taking her all in, and she literally grounded your ass. Which goddess is this? I don't even really know. The goddesses that I work with now, I have not met. I felt their presence. With that particular incident, I'm assuming it was either Gaia or the like spirit of the moon or goddess of the moon. Um, Now the ones that I work with now are Hecate and Freya. Freya and Hecate are the two ones that I mainly work with now. Um, but it also, I'm one of those practitioners that some people don't like. That's perfectly okay, which is depending on what spell I'm doing is depending on what deities I am asking for assistance in. Like here coming up in February, a lot of love magic. So Aphrodite, oh my god, Aphrodite, and there's 2 to 3 other ones that I'll call upon. And what I mean call upon is I will ask them to bless what I'm doing for those specific reasons. So Aphrodite, goddess of love, to bless this relationship. And then after that, I normally will give an offering. Like yesterday, because I love cats. I've always loved cats. Freya is heavily associated with cats as well, and she loves my cats. So I normally give her offerings every other month because I can literally walk outside because I have about 6 outside cats, 4 of them are kittens. And I won't be like, say they wandered off and I won't be able to see them. I can walk outside and be like, Freya, can you tell them to come home? And literally, normally within 5 to 10 minutes, all of my cats will show up on my front porch. So, an offering, a very simple one, but one that she loves, is I named a kitty Freya after her. All right, but when you encountered a goddess energy, how does the energy feel? Can you describe it in full detail? Yes, I can. Let me finish this really quick. For Freya, if you work with her, if you would like to give her an offering, get 2 pieces of loaf bread, some type of honey, and flaxseed. That's literally all it is. That's what and she loves it. She absolutely loves them. She also loves milk, I believe. The energy of the goddesses that I have connected with, and I'm going to use something else as an example to this. Ooh. If you have ever accidentally touched a electric fence or ever accidentally been slightly shocked, it's kind of like that, but really, really intense. And it's a physical thing, because just like doing circles, doing rituals in a actual full circle, and you're actually raising that energy, you will get a high, or what it's almost like a runner's high. With the goddess energy, depending on the goddess and or god, the energy is going to be slightly different, but I'm trying to think of a thing that almost everybody has experienced, but to try to translate that over. Because it's kind of a mixture of things. So remember when you were a kid and you got really, 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 really excited about like the smallest of things? That feeling mixed with the shock feeling, the like electrical shock, mixed with, I don't want to say a church, but like a meeting, whether that's a football game, a cheerleader. You know how the energy feels there where everybody is just like hyped up and it's intense? That's how the energy is. Physically, it's almost like when you listen to it, that's what it is. When you listen to a song, if you can do this, when you listen to a song and you get that chill that goes down your spine and then all of your hair stand up, that's what it feels like, but 10 times more intense. And I mean, when I took in the goddess that time when I was 15, it was so intense that my body physically could not hold on to it and literally collapsed. And it has happened multiple times. I've done spells where I've caused myself to have a migraine. I've never had a nosebleed, but I have seen other practitioners that they will push themselves to the point where it will physically make their nose bleed. And that's one of the reasons I encourage people, if you are not above the age of 18, if you're working with a goddess, do not do any type of ritual to draw them in because it can have lasting effects. Even spells and rituals can have lasting effects. Chocolate, I've learned this, especially with my oracle readings. Because at one point in time, I was doing like 5 readings back to back a day, and I couldn't keep up with the energy because uh, if anybody ever gets a reading from me, I thought their energy was going to be sexual, sensual. It depends. It depends on the god or goddess. It could be, but not all the time, unless that's the specific reaction to that. Um, but if you ever hear me use the term wow, that's extremely heavy energy. It's not bad. It just means that it's really, 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 really heavy, and that takes a toll on me. Any love god and or love goddess should do. I know there is I want to say he's an infernal, as in he falls into the category of a demon. That's what he does when he shows up. It's king something. When he shows up, he physically arouses people. Also, I would look into, as in research, not practicing, the Hindu belief system, because that's where the Tantra came from. Are the what am I thinking of? The adult book of different positions. Um, but yeah, like love magic. Now there is one thing I do want to say because it's been making its way along the lines. Um, just so everybody knows, in the United States, if you add menstrual blood and or seed, male seed, to somebody's food and they do not know it and eat it, if that is ever found out, you can go to jail as a felon. That is a felony charge in all states in the United States. Believe it or not. That's also what I wanted to talk about as well. If you are a practitioner that offers spell work, check your laws state-wise when it comes to legal ramifications of certain spells, because there are some states, if somebody were to actually get a serious judge, you can be trialed for witchcraft, especially when it comes to legal matters, which is why I do not offer legal services um at all. At all. um which shocked me because I did not know that. But yes, there are some states to where you can be arrested for practicing witchcraft. But yeah, that type of energy is very, very. Have you ever made a lust talisman before? No, no. I it can be done, but no. And I actually recently learned something about talisman and amulets, and I'm gonna try to find the video. I did not create it, but I'm gonna try to find the video and post it in my shorts, because it's a really, really nifty thing to remember what's the difference between an amulet and a talisman. Um, but no, I don't personally need a lust thing because I'm a fire sign. The people that understand that understand that. Um, but does anybody have any other questions um that I can answer and or speak on before I go? Because I've got 10 to 15 no, I gotta add 2 more, and I gotta get up with 2 other people. So I have almost 20 petitions that I've got to turn into, or 20 names and information that I have to turn into sigils throughout today and tomorrow. What was I about to say? Oh, also, with that being said, start looking at eclipses, because we are having some this year. Thank you for sharing. Hope you have a wonderful day, Monday. Thank you, and I hope you have a wonderful day too. And to anybody who rewatches this, if you've made it at this point, thank you. I do have a Discord. Trust me, you're gonna want to join, because the community in there is just fucking amazing. Straight up, they're amazing. Obviously, I have a podcast, and I'm slowly gonna be getting that up and back up and ready. And then for the month of February, I'm running a special on 2 different spells. I'm also doing the community candle, which is free to everybody. The 2 spells that I will be offering, they're both 35 apiece. One is for single people who are wanting that next chapter to arrive into your life. With that, you'll basically give me a brief description of, realistically, your dream person. And then basically what this spell does, it does not make you fall in, it does not make somebody fall in love with you at all. It helps bring it in. Is it true that you can program a servitor anything you want it to do? Yes, in a rationalized theory of that, yes, that is 100% true as long as you feed it. Now, most servitors or servitors, most of them, depending on how you make them, they're only around until they officially complete the task. Once the task is completed, they cease to exist, unless you make it to where as long as you feed it, it is still thriving. Yeah, that spell, the next chapter spell is what I'm calling it. It helps align everything up in the universe for the perfect chapter to come through. I do not offer that service. I do not make servitors and send them out. That's one thing I do not do. There are other practitioners that do, but I do not. But basically it helps line everything out. Now you do need you're going to need to do footwork on your end, which is basically join those dating apps, talk to people, put yourself out there. Now the second, and I will answer that question in a second. The second one that I'm offering is for the actual couples, the people that have been together for years, months, whatever it is. The people that are in a relationship. It's called to respark the spark spell. It's a really, really, actually, it's amazing spell because I've even done it to me and my partner, because it doesn't just respark that like sexual tension, it resparks everything. And I do encourage people who get this service to set up some type of, when I say date night, I do not mean going out and spending $1,000 or $100 on food. Whatever your date night is, pizza, movies, to kind of re-spark that spark. And it does work so much. The most success that I've had with it, I saved a 17-year marriage from ending. Yeah. But those are the two that I will be offering. If you want any further information on those, just hit me up on my Instagram and or Facebook. I am offering two different types of spell work for the month of February. For the single people, it's a spell to help you find your next chapter, the next person that's going to be in your life. The second one is for people that have been married, and it's to re-spark the spark between the two. And both of them have been extremely successful. Now, with that being stated, like I always say, disclaimer, magic is not 100% guaranteed. And I don't care what practitioner is out there, magic is not 100% guaranteed. There's very high success rate, and with that, I always tell people, with buying my services, wait at least 28 days and or a full lunar cycle to come in. Okay, but if I just want a short-term sexual partner. I've never actually thought about that before. I mean, theoretically, yeah, it could be worked in with the next chapter, but just kind of tweak. Basically, I would tweak what you're trying to attract. So instead of trying to attract an actual relationship, you're just trying to attract a, I'll say friends with benefits thing. So yeah, it definitely work. Or it should work. And then, like I said, what I mean by footwork is you do the footwork as in the apps, the dating. I would say go on actual dates, but we're in a pandemic, so dating apps and stuff like that, putting yourself out there. And that's with any spell work. Any spell work that you ever get from me, that anybody gets from me, you have footwork on your end. And depending on the spell is depending on your footwork. If you come to me for a get a new job spell, after I perform the spell, you need to fill out as many job applications as you can. Same with the relationship one. Same with finances. What I mean with the finances one, if you come to me, which I don't really like doing financial spells because to me, I find it redundant, as in you're paying money to bring money in. But with that though, like advertise your business. If not, put yourself in situations to where you can do odd jobs to get that money to come in. That's how magic works. Magic, and say this candle that I made. By the way, second successful candle that I've made. Still working on the scent though. But with that candle, this candle is the catalyst behind the spell. I have to do, and or you have to do footwork on the other end to make sure that what you're trying to manifest has a door to manifest into. But yeah, I think that's gonna be it for today. Cause like I said, I've got a lot of shit to do. I also have to eat. Also, really quick, random, but here we go. I tried a new recipe last night, and yes, it can have magical qualities. My Facebook is Fire Lotus the Witch. Just go to. I would send you a link, but my Facebook page's link doesn't work. But yeah, just go to Facebook and type in Fire Lotus the Witch, and it'll pull it right up. Um, but quick and simple, easy recipe for anybody who wants to try it. And if you do, please let me know. Um, Thank you so much. Um, you'll need a bag of tater tots, 2 cans of condensed mushroom soup. If you're allergic, you can use cream of chicken. And then either a pound to 2 pounds of ground beef sausage. Fry that up, depending on how you want to season it, and season that. Drain the grease, and then add 2 of the cans of cream of mushroom soup. And then I forgot to add at least about a bag should do, depending on how much cheese you like. Get a bag to 2 bags of shredded cheese. Simplest thing ever, and we made it last night, and it's going to become a staple in the house. It's just basic tater tot casserole. And basically, you mix the 2 cans of condensed milk with the meat and or 1 can, depending on how much you're making. Layer that down at the bottom. Put the frozen tater tots on top of it. Sprinkle cheese on it, and bake that for about 30-35 minutes at the recipe that I had was at 340, but theoretically you can follow the descriptions on the tater tot bag. Holy shit, amazing. And it's still good to this, like the next day over, it's also good. But when you're doing that, look up the protective qualities or the magical qualities of potatoes. Any herbs that you add to that, set the intention as you're adding it to it. Say, rosemary, bring me prosperity or happiness. Same with condensed mushrooms. I'm pretty sure mushrooms have some type of thing. And then not only do you have a delicious meal, but you also just did kitchen magic. Pizza, if you're like me and you're obsessed with pizzas are basically a prosperity spell, depending on what's all in it. And boom. Okay, I wish you the best too, and I also have to go as well. But to anybody who receives this, there's no such thing as a stupid question. Please comment or message me on one of my platforms. I will answer it if I can. And yeah, I will be going live tomorrow too. It may be earlier and or slightly later than I normally do, depending on, because tomorrow's going to be a busy day. It's Imbolc, it's the new moon, it's February the 1st, lots of things going on. But yeah, until then, I enjoyed everybody who has popped in, joined in, and yeah, thank y'all so much. And also thank y'all so much for talking to people about my my lives and my Facebook and all this other stuff. Thank you so much. Okay, bye. Have a wonderful. I've actually tried losing weight. Oh, that is awesome. Congrats. But yeah, until then, I will see y'all later and talk to y'all later. Peace. Of course.